Hi, it's Mrs. Newman, and today we're going to solve quadratic equations by factoring. Before we do that, we're going to review the zero product property, and it states that if two numbers, in this case a times b, are multiplied and they equal 0, then a is equal to 0 or b is equal to 0, or they're both equal to 0. So we're going to apply this to solving quadratic equations. Before we do that, in our previous lessons, we were just asked to factor. And this was the expression we was given, and our answer would be this. So when we have to solve quadratic equations, there are going to be a couple of differences. It's going to say solve, and then a new step is we're going to have to set these factors equal to 0. Once we set those factors equal to 0, we then have to individually set them equal to 0. So I need to set k plus 1 equal to 0 and k minus 5 equal to 0. Next, we have to actually solve. So I want to know what k is equal to. So I subtract 1 on both sides for here, and I get k is equal to -1. And I add 5 on both sides here, and I get k is equal to a positive 5. Going forward in the video, I am going to skip this step because we should know how to solve 1- and 2-step equations. So this is example number 1. It's the same exact example we just did. It just looks a little different. So they're going to give us equations. They may say f of x is equal to, and they give us our expression. I just need you to remember that f of x is the same thing as saying y equals. So we're now going to solve this equation. Y equals x squared minus 4x minus 5. And the first thing we need to do is replace f of x or y, whichever one they give you. We're going to replace it with 0. And the reason we're doing that is because we are trying to solve for x. So I replace my y in this case with 0. And then step 2 is going to be factor. Factor the equation. So I need to factor this. When I factor, this is what I get. Next, we need to set our factors equal to 0. So this is where we're applying the zero product rule. This looks a little weird. So in this step right here, I like to see my 0 on the right hand side, and it's just easier to read. So I rewrite it with my 0 on the right hand side. Now I separate it, set them equal to 0, and then we solve. So you are going to see your answers in one of two ways. You may see your x's written individually, or you may see it as a solution set, because they can just say find the solution set, and essentially they're telling you to solve the equation. So the solution set uses curly brackets. These are not parentheses, these are curly brackets. So please make sure you use the proper notation. So let's get into some examples. So the first thing we want to do is make sure our equations are in standard form. We're going to set them equal to 0. We're going to factor them completely. We're going to use the zero product rule, which is basically saying set each factor equal to 0, and then we're going to solve the equations. We always want to check our equations to make sure they're in standard form. It is. They already set it equal to 0, so we're just going to start factoring. Whenever you factor, you want to see if there's a GCF. So x squared minus 9x. There is a GCF of an x. So I'm going to extract the x, and what's left is going to be x minus 9 equals 0. X minus 9 cannot be factored anymore. So we are now going to use the zero product property, which says I have to now set each one of these factors equal to 0. This already says x is equal to 0. There's nothing for me to do there. But on this side, I need to solve for x. So I add 9 on both sides, and this is going to be x is equal to 9. So my answer is x is equal to 0, and x is equal to 9, or if I write it as a solution set, x is equal to 0, 9 close curly brackets. You can pause the video and try this example on your own. And the steps are right there. Here's your answer. I'm now going to do this example here. You will notice it is in standard form. And in this case, it's not set equal to 0, so I must do that. So again, I like my 0 on the right-hand side. I notice that this is the difference of perfect square, so I'm going to have 2 sets of parentheses. And then x times x gives me x squared. 7 times 7 gives me 49, and one must be positive and the other must be negative. Set the 2 factors equal to 0. And then solve. So subtract 7 on both sides and I get x is equal to negative 7. Add 7 on both sides over here and we get x is equal to positive 7. So our solution set is x is equal to curly bracket negative 7 comma 7. So there should only be really 2 new steps for you once you finish factoring. Try the you do. Pause the video. And this is your answer. Over here, f of x equals 3x squared minus 75. Again, I know I'm solving equations, so this needs to be set equal to 0. Look for GCF. I can extract 3. If you are having difficulties extracting GCFs and identifying difference of perfect squares, please go back to previous videos and watch those. So when I extract my GCF, I'm left with x squared minus 25. Oh, that's a perfect square, difference of perfect squares. So 3, 2 parentheses, x minus 5, x plus 5, and then we set each one equal to 0. And solve. 3 can never equal to 0, so we just kind of reject that. And then over here we get x is equal to positive 5. This one is x is equal to negative 5. And then our solution set is x is equal to negative 5, comma 5. Always go from least to greatest. Try this example on your own. And that's your answer. Yes, you can have fractions as an answer. So now let's do some more challenging ones. So you'll notice we now have 3 terms. So we have equations and they have 3 terms. So what's going to happen is we need to find factors that multiply to give us negative 10, but also add or subtract to give us negative 3. You see I have my decimals open, so I'm going to put negative 10 divided by x. And then go to the table to find the factors. Change the numbers. And I'm only looking at the whole number, so which one of these, if I add or subtract them, will give me a negative 3? And the answer is 2 and negative 5. So we need to set it equal to 0 first. And then we factor. And we get x plus 2, x minus 5 equals 0. And set them equal to 0. This is x equals 2. And this is x equals 2. And this is a negative 2, excuse me. And this is x equals positive 5. My solution set would be negative 2, comma 5. Pause the video and try this example. This should be your answer. And let's do the final one together. So you will notice this is out of order. In order to get this in standard form, we need to subtract 21 on both sides. So we have x squared minus 4x minus 21 equals to 0, because this would cancel out. And now it's already set equal to 0. Use decimals if you need to. I need factors that are going to give me negative 21. So negative 21 divided by x. Go to my table. Again, change the numbers. Stop wherever you feel. And these are all the numbers that give me 21. I now need to figure out which one is going to add to give me the negative 4. So 3 and negative 7, when I add them together, gives me negative 4. So x plus 3 times x minus 7 equals 0. And now set both of them equal to 0 and solve. This is going to be x equals negative 3. This is x equals to 7. And the solution set would be x is equal to negative 3, 7. You can do the next one on your own. Pause the video and give it a try. And check your answer. This should be your answer. So we will go over this more in class. Hopefully this was helpful, and see you in class.